There's something strange happening in 2026, and most people haven't noticed it yet. Look around. People are still doing exactly what they were told would make them successful. They wake up early, go to work, save a portion of their salary, maybe invest a little, and hope that over time it all adds up to something meaningful. On the surface, it looks responsible. It looks disciplined. It even looks smart. But quietly, almost invisibly, the rules have changed. Because while millions are still chasing the same path, a small group of people is building wealth in a completely different way. They're not louder. They're not necessarily more educated. And they're definitely not working harder in the traditional sense. Yet somehow, they're pulling ahead, fast. And the reason is simple. They're focused on a different kind of asset. See, most people think of assets in very traditional terms. A good job is considered an asset. A savings account feels like security. Maybe some stocks, a piece of land, or a rental property. That's what we've been taught to aim for. And for a long time, that thinking made sense. But in 2026, those are no longer the fastest paths to wealth. They're stable, yes, predictable maybe. But they are no longer powerful enough on their own to create the kind of financial freedom people actually want. What's changed isn't just the economy. It's not just technology. It's the nature of leverage. Today, wealth is no longer built primarily by what you do. It's built by what you own, and more importantly, what can work for you even when you're not working. That's where most people fall behind, because they're still trading time for money, still relying on systems that require constant effort to produce results. If they stop, the income stops. If they slow down, everything slows down. It's a cycle that looks productive, but rarely leads to real freedom. Meanwhile, something else is happening in the background. There are people building assets that don't look like assets at all. No physical form, no obvious value at first glance, nothing you can hold or store in a bank. But these assets grow. They multiply. They reach people across the world. And once they're built, they keep working, day and night, quietly compounding. And here's the most important part. Most people ignore them, not because they're unavailable, not because they're difficult to access, but because they don't feel like assets. They don't come with the same sense of security as a paycheck. They don't look as real as money in a savings account. And because of that, they're often dismissed as risky, uncertain, or not serious. But that perception is exactly what creates the opportunity. Because the biggest shifts in wealth have always been invisible in the beginning. They don't announce themselves. They don't look obvious. They don't come with guarantees. They quietly reward the people who see them early and ignore everyone else. So, while the majority continues to focus on what used to work, a smaller group is positioning themselves around what works now. And the gap between those two groups is growing wider every single day. The truth is, in 2026, it's no longer enough to simply work hard, save money, and hope for the best. That model is no longer broken, but it's no longer complete either. Because the real advantage today doesn't come from doing more. It comes from understanding what actually builds wealth in this new environment and having the awareness to shift before it's too late. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The hidden asset. So what exactly is this hidden asset? It's not a stock, it's not land, and it's definitely not your job. The asset quietly making millionaires in 2026 is owned attention combined with digital leverage. That might sound complicated, but it's actually very simple when you see it in real life. Think about someone who starts a YouTube channel talking about money, fitness, or even relationships. At the beginning, they might get 50 views, maybe 100. Nothing impressive. It doesn't feel like an asset. It just feels like effort with no reward. But fast forward a few months. One video starts getting shared, another gets recommended. Suddenly, they're getting thousands of views, then tens of thousands. And here's the key part. They didn't work thousands of hours for those views. They worked once, but the result multiplied. That's digital leverage. Now take it a step further. Let's say this person teaches simple money habits. People start trusting them. Over time, that trust turns into opportunity. Maybe they create a simple guide. Maybe they recommend tools. Maybe they start a small business around their knowledge. Now, their attention is turning into income. And it all started with something that didn't look like an asset at all. Or think about someone on TikTok who shares short, useful tips, maybe about careers, side hustles, or even daily life in the city. At first, it's just content. But as more people watch and follow, they build something powerful, an audience that listens. Later, if they promote something, a service, a product, or even their own idea, people pay attention. Not because they were forced to, but because they trust the person speaking. That's owned attention. And the reason this works is because of three things most people overlook. First, it scales. If you explain something once in a video, that video can reach 10 people or 1 million people. Your effort doesn't increase, but your results can. Compare that to a job, where you have to show up every day to earn the same amount. Second, it compounds. Let's say you post one video today. Nothing happens. You post another tomorrow. Still quiet. But after 50, 100, 200 pieces of content, something changes. Your old content starts getting discovered. People binge your work. Everything starts connecting. It's like planting seeds. At first, nothing grows. Then suddenly, everything does. Third, it works 24/7. Imagine waking up and seeing that people watched your content while you were sleeping. That's something a normal job can never do. Your effort continues to produce results, even when you're not there. But here's where people get it wrong. They think this is about being famous. It's not. You don't need millions of followers. You don't need to go viral. Even a small, focused audience can be powerful. For example, someone with just 5,000 loyal followers who trust them can earn more than someone with 100,000 followers who don't care. Because attention without trust is just noise, but attention with trust is influence. And influence creates opportunity. What makes this asset even more powerful in 2026 is how easy it is to start. You already have a phone. You already have ideas. You already have access to platforms where people are actively looking for content every single day. You don't need permission. You don't need money to begin. You just need to start sharing something useful, interesting, or relatable, consistently. But most people won't, because in the beginning, it feels slow. It feels uncertain. It doesn't feel like progress. There's no immediate reward, and that makes people quit too early. And that's exactly why this asset is still underrated. Because the people who push through that early phase, who keep building even when it's quiet, are the ones who end up owning something incredibly valuable. Something that grows, something that works for them, something that changes their entire financial future. And once you understand that, you start to see opportunities everywhere. Why most people will miss it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Even after understanding all this, most people will still miss it. Not because it's complicated, not because it's unavailable, but because of how they think and how they behave. The first reason is distraction. We live in a world where attention is constantly being pulled in every direction. Notifications, trends, entertainment. Everything is designed to consume your focus, not help you build it. So instead of creating something valuable, Most people spend their time consuming what others have created. Hours go by, watching, scrolling, reacting, but never building. And the longer that cycle continues, the harder it becomes to break out of it. The second reason is short-term thinking. People want fast results, immediate feedback, quick wins. If something doesn't show progress in a few days or weeks, they assume it's not working, so they quit. But this asset doesn't reward impatience. In the beginning, it's quiet. You might post content and get no response, no likes, no comments, no visible progress. And that silence makes people uncomfortable. It makes them doubt themselves. It makes them feel like they're wasting time. So they stop, right before things start to compound. Because what they don't realize is that this game is delayed. The results you want don't come from what you do today. They come from what you've been doing consistently over time. The third reason is fear of visibility. Putting yourself out there is not easy. Sharing your thoughts, your ideas, your perspective, it opens you up to judgment. People might ignore you. Some might criticize you. Others might misunderstand you. And for many people, that fear is enough to keep them silent. They tell themselves, "I'll start when I'm better," or "I need to learn more first," or "I'm not ready yet." But the truth is, that moment of perfect readiness never comes. So they stay invisible. While others, who are no more talented or knowledgeable, take action and grow. Then there's inconsistency. Even the people who start often don't continue. They post for a week, maybe two, and then stop. Life gets busy. Motivation drops. Results don't come fast enough. And without consistency, nothing compounds. It's like planting seeds and digging them up every few days to check if they're growing. You never give them the time they need to develop. But the biggest reason of all is the desire for certainty. People are comfortable with things that feel predictable. A job gives you a clear structure. You know what to expect. You know when you'll get paid. It feels safe. But this asset doesn't offer that in the beginning. There's no guarantee that your content will work. No assurance that people will pay attention. No fixed timeline for success. And that uncertainty pushes most people away. They choose what feels safe, even if it keeps them stuck. Meanwhile, the people who win in this space think differently. They understand that visibility is a skill, that consistency beats perfection, that results are delayed, not denied. And most importantly, they play the long game. They don't expect immediate success. They expect growth. They show up even when it's quiet. They improve with each attempt. They focus on building something that compounds, rather than chasing something that pays instantly. And over time, that difference in mindset creates a massive gap. Because while most people are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect result, a small group is already building, already learning, already positioning themselves. That's where the urgency comes in, because this opportunity won't stay unnoticed forever. More people are starting to realize it. More people are entering the space. And as that happens, it becomes more competitive. The early advantage disappears. Right now, the barrier to entry is low. The opportunity is wide open. But that window is slowly closing. So the real question isn't whether this works. It's whether you'll act on it or watch others do it while you stay exactly where you are. How to start building it today. So how do you actually start building this asset? Today? Not next month. Not when you feel ready. Not when everything is perfect. Today. Because the biggest mistake you can make after understanding all this is doing nothing. And the truth is, getting started is much simpler than people think, but it requires clarity. You don't start by asking, "How do I make money?" You start by asking, "What value can I consistently share?" That could be something you're learning, something you've experienced, or something you're naturally good at. You don't need to be the best. You just need to be useful, relatable, or interesting enough that someone else benefits from listening to you. For example, if you understand money habits, start sharing simple lessons. If you're learning a skill, document the process. If you've gone through challenges in life, talk about what they taught you. You're not trying to impress everyone. You're trying to help someone. Once you have that clarity, the next step is consistency. Not perfection, not complexity, just consistency. You don't need expensive equipment. Your phone is enough. You don't need long videos. Even short, clear ideas are powerful. What matters is showing up again and again, because that's how you build momentum. Think of it like this. If you post once, nothing happens. If you post 10 times, still very little. But if you post 100 times, something shifts. People start recognizing you. Platforms start recommending your content. Your confidence improves. Your message becomes clearer. And suddenly, what felt invisible starts becoming visible. That's the compounding effect. But here's where most people slow themselves down. They overthink. They spend too much time planning, editing, waiting for the perfect idea. Meanwhile, someone else with less skill but more action is moving ahead. Speed matters more than perfection in the beginning, because every piece of content is feedback. Every attempt teaches you something, and the faster you learn, the faster you improve. Now, as you stay consistent, something important starts to happen. You build trust. People begin to recognize your voice. They start to listen. They come back for more. And that trust is what turns attention into opportunity. This is where leverage comes in. Because once you have attention and trust, you can direct it. You can recommend something valuable. You can create something simple, a guide, a service, a solution. You can collaborate with others. You can open doors that didn't exist before. And the best part? You're no longer dependent on one source of income. You've created options. But don't miss this. None of this requires you to be extraordinary at the start. It only requires you to start and continue. Because the real power of this asset is not in one big moment. It's in small actions repeated over time. One idea shared today, another tomorrow, another next week. Individually, they seem small, but together, they become something powerful, something that grows beyond your effort, something that works for you. And that's what this is really about. It's about ownership, owning something that no one can take away from you. Not a job, not a position, not a temporary opportunity, but an asset that you've built, piece by piece, that continues to create value over time. It's about control. The ability to create your own opportunities instead of waiting for them. The ability to reach people, to share ideas, to build something meaningful on your own terms. And ultimately, it's about freedom. The kind that doesn't come from luck or shortcuts, but from understanding how the game has changed and choosing to play it differently. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start where you are. Use what you have. Say what you know. Because a year from now, you'll either wish you had started, or you'll be grateful that you did.